By the second week of January, something quiet happens. Not publicly, not dramatically, just quietly. The gym is still there, the shoes are still by the door, the notebook is still blank. You do not decide to quit, you just stop returning. At first, it feels temporary. You tell yourself you'll get back to it tomorrow, or next week, or when things calm down. But days pass, then weeks, and without ever saying it out loud, the resolution dissolves. Most people believe this is where motivation disappears, that discipline runs out, that willpower fades. But that explanation is comforting, and comfort is rarely the truth. People do not quit their New Year's resolutions because they're lazy. They quit because continuing creates a deeper psychological discomfort than stopping ever will. At the start of the year, the promise feels clean, a fresh calendar, a symbolic reset, a version of you that feels possible because it has not been tested yet. That version of you makes the resolution, not the version who has to wake up early, not the version who feels tired after work, not the version who has to sit inside discomfort without immediate reward. In psychology, there is a concept that explains this split. It is called temporal self-division. It describes how the brain experiences the future self as a different person, almost like a stranger you expect to handle things later. The hopeful future self makes the promise. The present self inherits the cost. And when those two selves are not aligned, something begins to strain. Intention feels light. Action feels heavy. The moment action begins, the fantasy collapses into reality, and reality introduces friction. Your body resists. Your emotions surface. Your limits become visible. This is the moment most people quietly disengage, not because they cannot do the thing, but because doing the thing forces them to confront who they actually are right now. Missing one day does not feel neutral, it feels personal. One skipped workout becomes evidence. One broken routine becomes a story about consistency, a story about self-control, a story about whether you are really the kind of person you thought you were. Psychologists call this all-or-nothing identity thinking. It's when behavior stops being behavior and starts becoming a verdict. You are not just someone who missed a day, you are someone who always quits. At that point, continuing imperfectly feels more threatening than stopping entirely. This is where quitting begins to feel like relief. Not failure, relief. The pressure disappears. The internal judge quiets down. The gap between who you wanted to be and who you are stops staring back at you. This is not weakness. It is nervous system protection. Avoidance-based coping is a well-documented psychological response. When something triggers shame or inadequacy or threat to identity, the brain looks for distance. Following through on a resolution keeps the gap open. Quitting closes it. That is why people stop quietly instead of adjusting their expectations. Adjusting would require staying in contact with discomfort. Stopping lets the system relax. Another force operating beneath the surface is cognitive dissonance, the tension that arises when actions don't match beliefs. You believe you are disciplined, but your behavior starts to contradict that belief. The mind resolves this tension in one of two ways: by changing behavior or by changing the story. Changing behavior requires sustained exposure to discomfort. Changing the story requires a single decision. So the story shifts. This year was too busy. Now was not the right time. I'll start again later. I need to reset first. These are not lies. They are self-soothing narratives. They preserve identity while avoiding exposure. This is why many resolutions do not fail loudly. They fade. They are placed gently on a shelf, not rejected, just postponed indefinitely. There is another layer that rarely gets discussed. The new year creates a performance of change, a social ritual, a moment where everyone is expected to declare intention. But many of these intentions are symbolic. They belong to who you wish you were, not who you have practiced being. When the attention fades and January moves on, so does the structure holding the promise together. Without an audience, the motivation was never embodied. This is why resolutions made privately tend to last longer. They're not protecting an image, they are engaging a process. Most people don't need better goals. They need better self-understanding. Resistance is not a moral failure, it's information. Quitting does not mean you didn't care. It often means the cost of caring felt too high. The real question is not why you stopped, it is what stopping protected you from feeling. Was it inadequacy? Was it exposure? Was it the fear of proving something about yourself? Until that is understood, the cycle repeats. A new year, a new promise, a familiar ending. Awareness doesn't immediately change behavior, but it changes your relationship to it. And sometimes real change doesn't begin with a new promise, it begins with an honest recognition that promising is easy, becoming is confronting. And most people are not quitting their resolutions, they're protecting themselves from the moment the fantasy meets reality.